point. And then the next person's like, my real estate goal is to buy 5 farms that I can have like pumpkin farms on and generate $5 trillion of revenue every minute. And I was like, oh my God, I hate this group. And then so it keeps going around the table. And I was like, I don't want to say my goal out loud. This is going to suck. And so I was like, I would like to be a quilt influencer. And they were like, what is a quilt? And I was like, yep, I hate this.
Welcome to Our Family Invests, the podcast where successful couples come together to share their inspiring stories of balancing family, life, and business. We're Mike and Caroline Neubauer, husband and wife entrepreneurs striving to live our best lives with our family at the center. This podcast celebrates the couples who inspire us, invest in each other, and raise those around them to the next level. Join us as we explore their challenges and victories. Let's learn, share, and grow together.
Today, we are excited to have two of our favorite people, Alex Felice and Miss Kate, a duo as dynamic as they come. Alex is a real estate investor, professional photographer, ex-soldier, and fitness junkie whose quadriceps deserve their own zip code, and whose razor-sharp wit and unapologetically blunt, often polarizing personality are bold, refreshingly honest, and entirely unforgettable. Standing shoulder to shoulder with him is Miss Kate, his brilliant, ambitious, spunky, and wildly creative fiance. As one of the world's most renowned quilting entrepreneurs, she's turned her passion into an empire while proving that intelligence and artistry make a formidable combination. All right, let's dive into their journeys, explore their challenges, and learn how they're able to keep each other the focus of their wildly exciting lives. All right, you two. Fill in the gaps and tell the audience a little bit about each of you, what you do and what you've done and what you're most proud of. Here's the twist, okay? Alex, you tell us about Miss Kate. Miss Kate, then you tell us about Alex.
That intro was so good. I want to meet those people.
Really?
They sound so cool.
I actually thought it was
I
good enough.
for sure.
What do I have to say? Miss Kate is the most optimistic person that I've ever met. If you come to her and you're like, man, I had this bad day or this bad thing happen to me, without missing a beat, she will say something that I never predict. Like, don't worry, tomorrow will be better. But at least you had this other thing happen today that I completely forgot about. And she is unbreakable in optimism. And I'm not that way. So it's very contagious. And she's always been that way, at least from when I met her.
That's true.
Now say something good about me.
Think hard. I know so many things.
Don't be afraid to use the word perfect. Don't be afraid to use the word perfect.
I believe it or not, that's not a word I was going to use. But no, Alex, honest to God, and I prefer if you just close your ears, because if not, then I'll have to hear this for like a week. I truly, when it comes down to it, despite the polarizing personality traits, of which there are many, I don't know anyone who actually cares more about people than Alex, or telling people's story or learning people's stories or trying to help people reach their goals, and unselfishly so he truly wants to be a weirdly background player in people's lives so that they can meet their goals without wanting anything in return except for like, will you pose for a picture so I can capture this moment for you and give it to you? Much like Caroline. I think Caroline's really good at being like, hey, I captured all these perfect moments for you. You didn't even notice, but here are just memories that you're going to want to keep forever. And I think that you and Alex have that in common. And it is a skill that I honestly think out of everyone I know, it's just the two of you. I think who can do that. And to a level that just feels like such a magical, like God-given gift, that you guys just capture moments that I think the rest of us don't even really get to know are magic until later, but you guys see the magic in the now. And so I think that both of you guys are a blessing in that way for the rest of us peons who don't notice the magic in the moment.
Because you're creating it. Wow.
That's
Thank
sweet.
you.
That's very nice. Very nice. Didn't expect to hear that, but that was great. Miss Kate, who were you before you met Alex?
I was probably who was I before I met Alex? I was actually on the road then. And so I was a traveling sales rep, and I decided that I was going to be single forever because I was 30 and not married, and therefore obviously was never going to find love. It was impossible. And so I was going to find a boyfriend in every city that I had work in. So that was the goal. And I met him my first week and he ruined everything. And so now we're happily married, well, almost married. So so glad that he ruined my plan for multiple boyfriends. So that was me before.
You were also, when you dive a little deeper into on the road, because you were on the road so much that you were never home because you did have a.
Oh no, I was on the road so much. So I was a traveling sales rep for a fabric company. My territory was all of both Carolinas and then parts of Virginia, West Virginia, Kentucky, Tennessee, and Georgia. And I had 250 quilt stores and I would go to them 5 times a year. And I would usually be on the road 52 to 58 days in a row and usually come home for sometimes 16 to 18 hours and usually enough to do laundry and have dinner with my Nana who lived next door, tell her I wasn't dead, and then go back on the road for another 52 to 58 days. And so I was like, in addition to being 30 and being single and being like, I'll never meet anyone, I took this job because I was like, if I'm going to be single, that's the only way possible you can do this job because there's no way you can meet anyone and do this job. That's impossible. And like I said, I met him my very first week doing this job. And then I ended up quitting that job right before we moved to Maui. And so that was most of our early dating was we would see each other one weekend a month because we also, in addition to me traveling that much, we lived 5.5 hours away from each other. Wow. And so even if I was home, we were still 5.5 hours away from each other. And so we met on Tinder, as all true COVID love stories occur. And so we swiped in a city neither of us lived in. And yeah. And so then rest is history. We just chatted on an app. Do you know why? Do you know what? Okay. So we should have on an app. We met because my little bio thing said there's 100% chance I've read more books than you.
Oh,
and he tried to shit talk me.
Of course.
It didn't work. And so he was like, I've read more books. And I was like, that's not true. And it's not true. And so he's still trying to catch up. And so, so we spent the last 5 years of him trying to catch up with books.
Wow.
How did that make you feel, Alex? You had met your match within the first few seconds.
She reads stupid people books.
He was like, I read real books.
Yeah.
And I was like, excuse me while I read pamphlets over here.
Yeah.
Like,
okay. Well, yeah. About Miss Kate. So Alex, who was Alex before Alexander the Great? And you can't just say he was Alexander the Great since the beginning.
I've been Alexander the Great for quite a while.
That's how you know she knows you. Like, the answer can't be the answer.
Yeah.
Who were you before me?
Before you?
That's really sad.
I had just gone through, I was in a 9-year relationship that I knew was wrong for like 7 years. I just didn't have the courage to end it.
Yeah.
Even though I knew I should have. And finally I just got sick of it. I'm like, dude, this sucks for a long time and it's not getting better. So I finally ended it. And then I moved around the same time away from a lot of friends and to a city I really wasn't that excited about. And then like the next week, COVID happened. So not only was I kind of in a town I really didn't like and alone for the first time in 9 years, then the country got locked down. So it was a little bit of a hard time. And we met like on Tinder a couple months later. But it was weird because I was kind of at a really high trajectory right before then. I was doing really well in real estate. It was still pretty new to cameras. So during COVID, while the whole world shut down, I bought, I don't know, $4 million of real estate. I did my first big video project. I traveled to probably 15 US cities. I went out of the country 2 or 3 times that year. Like COVID didn't have, I mean, it shut down for some people. It didn't really shut down for me. But I was at a bit of a weird kind of low point. And actually, even though we had a really good time together, life got pretty worse for me for a while because that was around 20, right? Real estate.
Yeah.
The golden age. Mm-hmm. It was ending.
Sure.
So yeah, I was doing pretty good when I met Miss Kate, other than like, I was going through a bit of that tumultuous period. That's why I was single. So it worked out, I was ready.
Yeah.
I was
So-
very much like, hey, okay, I want this relationship to end, and I want the next one to be like, I wanted to go on my last first date kind of thing. Like I was ready.
Totally.
But financially, career wise, I was in pretty good shape.
Yeah.
You know, it was just actually all of that, like that career. There's been a lot of career shifts since then, but yeah.
So you
was
guys
very
met on
eligible.
Tinder. I'm curious to hear like the first date and how that went and how your first impressions are of each other, because you guys are like very polarizing people.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No, you're not.
I mean, and you both have big personalities. You know what I mean? Like I could see.
No, exactly what you meant.
We got kicked out. You got kicked out of the coffee shop.
We did
Awesome.
on our first date.
Wow.
Twice.
That
Twice.
actually sounds perfect for you guys.
Well, you said the same
Yeah.
coffee shop, or you moved?
Well,
and-
some idiot worked there, you know.
So we had just chatted on Tinder for like
Months.
because
Wow.
our schedules didn't match up. And like, again, my territory was huge. So he's like, hey, do you want to meet up like this day? And I'm like, sure. Do you want to drive 9 hours? Because I'm in West Virginia. And so finally we're always on the app too. We had never exchanged numbers for months. And finally he was like, hey, if we're always going to be pen pals, like, do you want to exchange numbers? And we can still be pen pals and like text. And I was like, what do you mean? And he was like, oh, well, I mean, we're never going to go on a date, because if we would have, like, we would have gone on a date by now. And I was like, I'm a catch. You should definitely ask me on a date. I'm amazing. And he was like, that was like something we were going to do. We would have done it by now. So I just thought we were going to like always talk about books and travel, and like that was going to be that. And I was like, I would ask me on a date.
Yeah,
I were you.
highly
And
recommend it.
so the only time that worked for both of us is, do you remember?
Yeah, like Raleigh, 7 a.m.
Yep. It was like 7 a.m.
Wow.
And so we were like, and I had to work at like 8:30 or something. And so I was like, well, if you want to drive the hour up here from where you're at, I can meet you at a diner at 7 a.m. and we can have breakfast. That's what I can do.
We nailed it.
And so he did. He got up and he left his house at like 5:50 or something in the morning. And it was during COVID times. And so everything still had masks. And he rolled up in camo. He's going to get a picture. He rolled up in camo joggers. I'm sure you guys are shocked. And it was his bright pink t-shirt phase. And then he had on what he calls a homeless man sweater, which is like a chunky knit sweater that looks like his grandma or somebody made it.
It's amazing.
And then he had on like a pull-up mask that was like a skull, like a skull, but it was like all in neon colors. And then he had the mohawk, and he literally rolled up, and I was like, he looks like a kindergartner and a junk drawer got together to dress him. And I was like, what are you doing, Kate? Like, what are you doing? And I had told him, like, I was like, oh my God, this is why this is a 7 a.m. diner date, because you can be like, I can go to work and never talk to him again. But the day before, because we had talked for so many months, I was like, you know what? We're going to meet tomorrow, and we're either never going to speak to each other again, or we're going to end up married.
If you say that enough times,
No.
that's it.
Yeah.
So if
Yeah.
you want me to read things, slow down. Like, yeah.
Okay,
So good.
did you
He's
have
trying
the
to find
same
a picture.
impression as Miss Kate when you walked in? Like, what am I doing here? This is not the person that I expected. Because you guys has been just writing each other, right? You hadn't seen each other before, or FaceTime or anything like that.
No, I didn't even know.
Yeah. What was your impression of Miss Kate, Alex?
I don't remember.
Nothing. And it was a perfectly mediocre date. Like, we did not like leave it and we're like, oh yes, I met somebody special. We were like,
There's a few months before we started to like have a real thing.
yeah.
But that's very much how I am. I had already done that. I had already
Right.
done the like, oh, look at that one. Let me just,
Seal the deal.
make an impulsive decision.
Sure.
I already made that mistake. So I was like, all right, you gotta go through the gauntlet. So nobody goes through the gauntlet in day one. So I was like, yeah, we'll just cruise on.
But I was on the road so much, I only packed like the same couple outfits because I only saw the same stores 5 times a year. So I would pack the same bag over and over and over again, very Steve Jobs. And so like on our 4th date, again, it's been like months, right?
Yeah.
On our 4th date, he was like, do you have any other clothes? Because I accidentally wore the same dress to our first 4 dates. because I only had one suitcase of clothes. And it was like my favorite dress of the one suitcase of clothes I had. And so on date 4, he was like, do you have anything else? And I was like, I have 4 other outfits.
And this is why he buys you clothes still.
Still does. So last week he was like, do you have another pair of shoes? And I was like, these ones don't have holes in them yet. I don't know why I would need more shoes. So
I love that. Mike really loves
I
that.
really love that.
Yeah.
See, we all have something to learn.
Yep.
I love it. Okay. So you both are busy. You're both independent. You're doing different businesses, but also overlapping. So how do you prioritize being a couple as well as business? Or do you just blend that? Do you have any differentiation or any priorities that you put in place?
such a good question.
I don't like compartmentalizing life. I don't think the right way to live is to work one way and live another, or to have a work life and then a personal life. Now, some people have to do that because they have jobs. Remember those? Remember jobs? If you have a job and you're like, hey, I have to go do something I don't want to do for 8 hours a day, and then I have my personal life, then you're forced to compartmentalize that. But I don't like that. I like to live and work and art and personal and relationship. I like it to be I do Alex 24 hours a day, and Kate does Kate 24 hours a day. So not to say sometimes we probably could use better boundaries. So like we'll work at home and interrupt each other all the time because I'm like, look at this thing personal thing, and she's in the middle of work, or she'll come in and look at this thing that happened, and I'm trying to get something done. So it's not perfect, but we don't, what's the question? How do you separate work and personal?
Prioritize.
Yeah. Keep working.
Yeah, we kind of blend them pretty well. And then she's the one that's like, we need to go on a date.
Love it.
We need to go on a date. And I'm like, okay, but we vibe super well on what we want to do with our free time. Like, I think it would be much harder if you're like, when we go on dates, I want to have a big production and we want to dress up and we want to go somewhere fancy and we want to like all these things. And for her, and correct me if I'm wrong, but like a lot of times if I can tell if we need to get out of the house, we need to go do something, we need to go on a date. It's like, sometimes a coffee date in the morning is enough. Let's just go for a walk. We'll walk down to 6th Street and we'll go get coffee and we'll spend 2 hours hanging out and like in the sunshine, and that's enough. And sometimes let's go to dinner and we'll dress up.
I want to go to an escape room.
And we'll go to escape rooms. We go to a lot of escape rooms.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we don't like anything fancy. So big it's not like, hey, we have this mundane life and then we have to do some big production. And I think most recently we're getting really good at we are definitely stop getting away from living 2 separate lives together and we are living one life.
Yeah.
Much better in a way that I don't know how. That's a new phenomenon to me. Now it's more like I know when we have to get out of the house and go on a date, or now I know when we have to go do something, rather than just her being like, it's time. I'm like,
You're so in tune at this point, which is really cool.
Well, I mean, you guys know, when you work together, live together, like together, play together, everything together, sometimes you do have to be like, hey, can we go on a date? Or like, hey, can you go to a coffee shop so I don't have to see your face?
Yeah.
Both of those can be true. It's me. I said that to him. Obviously, he has never said that to me. But generally, we just life together because we're best friends. And so we want to life together. And this is his office. Mine is directly next door. And we just leave our doors open and you're 18% more annoying than I am, but we're generally the same amount of annoying. And so we will just interrupt each other pretty equally of either, can you work on this for work stuff? Or like, hi, did you see this dog video I found on the internet? And so it's kind of equal. And because we both have ADHD brains, which he prefers to call high end, we also get bored at pretty much the same rate, which means we both have to go on a walk or do something else and not just work. And thankfully, when it comes to working for yourself, you can do that. And so because both of us work for ourselves, we can be like, wow, this is boring. Let's go do something else. And then come back and do the boring thing or hand it off to one of our employees. And so
I love that.
That's good. That's been really something I've learned in the past couple months is hiring out. And I know that's such a basic thing, but especially because my company is like 6.5 months old. And so I definitely didn't think I was going to be hiring anyone this early. But no, I probably should have hired somebody even earlier. But hiring people will save your relationship 100% of the time. And as soon as you can hire someone, even if that's like a tighter stretch, like hire them for whatever you hate doing so that you never have to do it again. Because every time I had to do something I hated doing, like it would just trickle into me being mean to Alex.
Yep, totally.
Hey family, real quick, if you would prefer to watch your content, head on over to Our Family Invests on YouTube. You can watch this podcast and more over there. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that little bell icon too to make sure you never miss an episode. And now, back to the show.
So, all right. So you guys have been entrepreneurs for a while. I know, Alex, you've done a lot of real estate stuff, and Miss Kate, you've got all kinds of stuff going on with the quilting. But how did your entrepreneurial journeys begin?
I'm not an entrepreneur.
Yeah, you are though.
I've always been a little bit of a sales. I can hustle to get by. So very independent. I started in somewhere around 2010, just like learning. I wanted freedom. I didn't want to build a business. I didn't really want entrepreneurship. I wanted freedom. And freedom is not just, I have my own thing. It's, I am beholden to no one or nothing. So I started in real estate because at the time, 2013, it was underpriced. So you could go on the MLS and buy, I was buying foreclosures, and then a property manager runs them. So I did nothing. That's my level of entrepreneurship. I want to do nothing. And that doesn't result in a lot of, it doesn't result in a lot of wealth, but it results in a lot of independence. So it was real estate for a long time. Yeah, that's how I got started.
Yeah, I've rental properties that are also managed, and so that I call it mailbox money so that I don't have to do anything. I managed it myself as a short-term rental when we lived on the East Coast, and then when we moved to Maui, the time difference was just brutal because when people would call, it'd be like 2 a.m. our time. They'd be like, the dryer doesn't work, and I'd be like, I'm so sorry, I don't care. It's 2 a.m. Like I just don't care. Like, if you call me in 7 hours, I'll care, but you want it. Like, so I was like, okay, I got to hands off of this. And then I wanted to have my mom is entrepreneurial. She has the largest quilt store in Virginia. And then when I worked fabric sales, I was an independent contractor. And so I was entrepreneurial in that sense. And then when I moved to Maui, I wanted to have a quilt store even before we moved. But then moving to Hawaii, the shipping costs to and from the islands is just pretty cost prohibitive as far as having physical product as a shop where you're primarily going to be shipping to the mainland. And so I was like, I had to put that on hold. And then basically, was it the same month we moved back to the mainland? I opened the shop and I wanted to do it on no debt. And I wanted to do it all on my own money. And so I literally just looked around our apartment and I sold quilts and clothes and furniture and just anything out of our apartment. And I completely funded it off of that and no debt, no money from anyone else, nothing. And I was like, okay, this is the money I have to start it. And I'm just going to go from that. And if I have to add more, I'll put it in for my savings. And I've never had to add more.
Amazing.
And what started as I couldn't afford to fully fund a shop to start. I could only afford enough for 1 week. And so I came up with the idea of doing Friday drops. And I was like, I hope that in 1 week, I will have enough to fund the next week. And so that's actually been hugely successful. And so now, even though I have enough to fund a shop, I keep it on the Fridays. And so I still only do Friday drops. And so I have products all week, but I only add new products on Fridays. And so it makes it super, super fun. And I think I'll keep it that way as long as possible because it just like reminds me of start with nothing. I still don't really have a logo and just like you just start and see where it takes you. And so it's been fun.
The logo on her website,
I don't think I have one, do I?
the text. This is my favorite thing.
I
I talk to business owners and investors and entrepreneurs all the time, and they always start with, "I got to get an an LLC, a website. I got to get business cards. I got to get a logo. It's all packaging. It's all like marketing and what I call playing business owner. It's all pretend. None of it generates revenue. And so girlfriend here goes off and she's like, I'm going to generate revenue. And we start the website. And so it says at the top of the website, it says Quilt with Miss Kate. It's the name of the company, Quilt with Miss Kate. No logo. But on Shopify's mobile dynamic, like formatting,
It's too many letters.
it's too many letters. So it's Quilt with Miss Kate, but the E is underneath. And so it's Quilt with Miss, like basically cat with just a lonely E underneath. And it's just it's been like that for 7 months. And it's not that we don't care. It's just, it doesn't generate revenue.
I'll fix it at some point.
We'll fix it at some point. You can't change like the text size. My point is, I've been so impressed because 99% of people I know that want to start a business, I hear it all the time because I talk to new entrepreneurs in this private community I'm part of. And they're like, well, I'm going to get started, but I got to get my LLC made. And I'm like, you can get an LLC and LegalZoom for $190 in 2 hours if you really wanted one. If you have if you're new and you don't have any revenue and you don't have any assets, you don't need anything to protect. You don't need really don't need that. But it just reminds me of so many people that pretend they get in the way with this, with this stuff. And then girlfriend here is
You gotta go.
doing very well and has this silly little logo.
I don't have a logo.
I love that.
Yeah.
And that's such a good point, Alex, because I think like I'm totally that person that's like, look, I got to have the nice logo and I have to have the nice lighting and I have to have this microphone for this first podcast because we're going to do 1,000 of them. And by episode 1,000, people are going to go back and listen to episode number 1. And, all that stuff that really doesn't matter. What matters is actually getting out there and doing.
What?
Right? Yeah. That's what I think that so many people, I feel like so many businesses run flat before they even get started. And so I love hearing about, Quilt with Miss Kate, fully operational and yet has so much still to do on the business side of it, right? But you're making money and that's what every business's purpose is, right? So
Dopamine. You get worn out on the dopamine from all these pretend decisions, all these pretend business things. You're like, look, I'm a business owner. I have this logo. And you get the dopamine hit and then you're dopamine dry with no revenue.
So he got me a fancy microphone for my lives for Christmas. And I was like, I don't want this. I'm fine without it. My phone has a microphone. Can you return this? Can I go to the spa instead? That was my request. I was like, I don't want a microphone. I want to go get a massage.
Totally.
I did ask him, I did ask Mike, I was like, can we just record off the computer? Like, do we need all of this stuff and all these cords?
And that's funny because, when we first started setting this thing up, I had camera here, camera there, camera here, 2 microphones, audio interface. We had all this stuff. And it's like, we've never even recorded anything. What are we doing? Just hit play. Just hit go.
It's normal.
It's totally normal.
For entrepreneurs. And they're just like, okay, I'm ready for year 10.
Yeah.
You're
Well,
like,
start out right and build the foundation. But I'm like, we haven't even done anything.
Yeah. Then you find out you don't like doing it.
Yeah. For sure.
yeah.
All right. I want to go back and ask you, what is a personal insecurity or fear that you've had to overcome to be successful in your business or in your relationship?
You first and last. You just go.
Let's go for both.
Yeah.
Yours?
No, I don't want to talk about me.
Oh, okay. So, obviously people who are listening know Mike and Caroline, and you guys, in the group we hung out with in Maui, it's a hugely successful group of, individuals, not even normal successful group. It's like a stupidly successful group. And so my whole idea for my quilt shop coming into kind of almost reality was actually born at Brandon Turner's goal setting retreat. And I was at a table.
He's going to hold this over you forever.
I don't care.
Go ahead.
My success is not your success, Brandon. And so at the goal setting retreat, we're going around sharing our goals for the year. And I'm there with real estate gajillionaires, and everyone's like, my goal for this year is to buy 9 hotels. And I was like, oh, shit, don't get to me. And then the next person's like, my real estate goal is to buy 5 farms that I can have like pumpkin farms on and generate $5 trillion of revenue every minute. And I was like, oh my God, I hate this group. And then like, so it keeps going around the table, and I was like, I don't want to say my goal out loud. This is gonna suck. And so I was like, I would like to be a quilt influencer. And they were like, what is a quilt? And I was like, yep, I hate this. So then I explained what a quilt was. And I was like, and I would, as a stretch goal, would like to open a quilt store. And then I had to explain what that was. And I would like to make $25. And it was just silence. And I was like, alrighty, who's next? And somebody's like, I'd like to buy a yacht because my first yacht isn't big enough. And I was like, this group sucks. And so I was just like, so it was very scary to be like, guys, here's my big, seemingly unattainable dream that to you sounds like it's for your child. Because to me, this sounds unattainable. And I'm going to sell things on Facebook Marketplace out of my apartment to make it happen. And so sometimes it's just really scary sometimes it's scary because your dream sounds so big. And sometimes it's scary because your dream sounds small, even though it feels big to you. And so mine was that my dream sounded small to the table I was sitting at. And I was like, it still sounds hard to me. And then, and I didn't know how to do it at all. No idea. And so I did it anyway. And
You started the next day, you went on Instagram and posted, and you posted every day since then, and generated an entire business off of that.
yeah, I did. I
That's
started the
incredible.
next day. I didn't know what I was doing, and I did. And in my first year, I said I want to do that in a year sell $25,000,
And you did it in
6
mud.
months I sold over quadruple that.
That's
And
amazing.
so,
Yeah.
and so, but that was my
Yeah.
insecurity. It was very, very hard for me.
Yeah, there's so much context that I have now too, because I'm like, man, I wonder if being in that room made you step up though.
Maybe. Because I was like, well, my dream sounds easier than getting a second yacht.
So many of those folks that we're in the room with didn't hit those goals,
Right.
and you exceeded yours.
They did hit them, but again, because mine were so much comparatively smaller, that I was like, well, mine sounds easier than yours, so
Yeah.
worth a shot.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I love it. It's great. I think one of those hindsights, because I've had similar situations where people are just, they're in it, they've been in it, they're driven, they know what they want, they know the metrics, and you want to be around those people and you want to hit some sort of goal, but it does sound so much smaller than what everyone else is sharing. But at the same time, it's so much bigger than anything you've ever done before. So the fact that you're growing, the fact that you took the steps to do it and you jumped in, that even though it in that moment you felt small or didn't want to share, you are so much further ahead than where you were.
You know, the other part too is there are a lot of people with multiple yachts. I don't know any other quilt influencers. You're one there.
Yeah. It's super cool. Like, you talk about people getting niche, like
I love
and
it.
that's the coolest part, is because when you find something that no one else is really doing, then you have room. Your ceiling is wide open. So you have room to take over that whole space. There's no reason why you couldn't. And clearly already doing that, which is very cool.
It just makes my heart so happy to be in that space too. And so like the fact that I get to be there, it feels like it shouldn't be a job. And like, I
That's
kind of feel
amazing.
like I hijacked the system. And so sometimes I'm like, I feel like I shouldn't tell people that I get to do this because maybe they'll want to do it too.
That's how
And
you know
so,
you're doing the right thing, you know?
yeah.
And honestly,
So,
you wanted a brick and mortar. This actually sounds better at this juncture because
it's
you're
so
not a
much
slave to a shop. You're not dealing with a bunch of employees or having to be there 9 to 5 and creating yourself something you don't enjoy. So, I love
it is exactly. because we're getting ready to go climb Kilimanjaro. And so I'm just going to be like, the shop doesn't exist right now. It'll be back.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, there you go.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Heck
Yeah. You've done great
Thanks, Bo.
and so grounded.
One more add to that too is because we are in high level masterminds, coaching, all of those things. One of the things that entrepreneurs tend to do is they tend to do all the research, spend all the money, and not have the product or the system work. And it doesn't make money. And now they've spent all this money. You did those drops and collected the money to fund the next week, which is so smart. You proved the concept and then it produced.
Yeah, we have no more. She has no marketing budget. So the business is actually organic and starting to become fairly consistent. The smaller dream is without ego and sustainable. And she likes it. And it's not like I have to go hit this big thing. It's easy to say that, but then it's also easy to quit. And so I think she's built something that, for her she might describe it as like, well, it's a small goal compared to what these other people said, but they just said that. And I know some of those people have already bailed on those goals. You know what I mean? And so I see her day to day and I'm like, dude, you're building something that you like, that has no ego. You're not doing it because you want to be a mogul. In fact, she could probably be a lot bigger if she cared, but she's like, I just want to have my little quilt shop. And I think that it's going to actually have a much higher ceiling. This is the conundrum about some of those groups is men tend to be egomaniacs.
Not our
and so then you get on these people that are like, they say all these things about how big their ambitions are, but it's not what your ambition is, it's what you produce. And so I've watched her over the last year produce a lot without the ego. And it's, you're definitely one of the best. And I tell you all the time, you're one of the best entrepreneurs I know. And I know a lot of, I know a lot of good people who are good at marketing and saying the right things. But I know she's one of the best actual business owners I know.
Wow.
So what does that do to spur you on, Alex? Like what does that
be a trophy husband?
Yeah, she comes in and she's like, she'll come in, she's like, I sold a bunch of quilts, so now you can keep doing your little camera hobby. Your little hobby.
I love it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Alex, you've kind of like, I know we've talked about this a little bit before, but you've kind of like let her run with this and been okay with kind of taking a little bit of a back seat in your guys's, entrepreneurial journey to kind of help out with the camera stuff for her and everything else. I think that's super remarkable. But I want to know too, has there ever been a time where whether it's with this or your relationship or anything, where you've just been like at wit's end and just felt like throwing in the towel? Because you guys seem to have just such an awesome relationship. You seem to be doing so much stuff right.
And together, collaborating.
Like together.
Throwing in the towel on business?
On business or on your relationship or anything? Like, have you ever hit that wall where you're like, dude, I don't think I can do this anymore?
No.
We're so new. You'll have to ask us again later.
Yeah.
It's only been 6 months, 2 weeks.
6 months and 2 weeks.
The business is only like 6-7 months old. The business, look, I do the photos and I'll do, I'm special projects. So like sometimes there's things that she doesn't like, taxes, bookkeeping, setting those things up, setting up the Shopify store. I've done a lot of that. I've done a lot of those weird one-off things, especially if they're one-off. If you have to have me do something the same every week, I'm useless. So I'll do special projects. I'll do photos because it gives me
Brilliant on it.
Yeah, it gives me a good way to be creative and help. So I do that. But honestly, I don't know anything about quilts. Every time I try to really help with the business, I shouldn't say every time. Half of the times that I try to help with the business, I just get in the way.
Yeah.
Like I'm mucking things up. I'm just tinkering where it doesn't need to be tinkered with. So and she doesn't want it. And I can look with my plain old eyes and be like, wow, I made this worse. So it's very easy to be like, when you say throw in the towel, the only time I throw in the towel is when I'm like, hey, everything is better if I go away. Everything is better if I just stay in my lane, take photos. If you get into trouble with something weird, like we had the bank.
Yeah.
Her bank got sold. It was a shitty bank. And then they sold it to another shitty bank. And it's just a pain. There's just small banks with bad online, bad customer service. And so we switched. And that's like something she really doesn't like doing. It's something that I really don't mind doing. I'm like, oh yeah, we'll go in there and tinker with this one-time fix, stuff like that. But throwing in the towel for the business, I'm like, So where's my retirement plan? I'm not throwing the towel. You're out of your mind. And she's going to do it.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? That's a lottery ticket throwing the towel. Not in mind.
And very painfully, like, again, we've grown much more quickly than intended. And I have 2 employees now. And so it's not just me and it's not just him. And so we're going to have to up that here in a minute too. And so, because it just, if it was just us trying to do everything now, one of us would be dead.
Yeah, you want to help each other shit.
It happened twice.
So
He helped twice.
So
I was like, I'll hire somebody.
yeah,
It's fine. I'll hire somebody.
I think her and I, we talked earlier about independence. Like we're pretty good at knowing. Look, it's a lifelong journey. I'm still learning, but the more you can know what you are and what you aren't, the better off you're going to be in life. And the two people, if they can both do that to a high degree and then also communicate that well and say, hey, I'm not good at certain things. You want me to pack shipping stuff? I'm like, 1, it's boring. 2, it's repetitive. 3, it's details.
It's everything he's terrible at.
It's like, I'm not helping. I'm fussing, I'm complaining and making mistakes. And so who wins? And so we don't do things in our relationship, in the business, in life. I really try to stay away from things that I am bad at, don't like, and like I could do something more. I can just find something else that I like and makes money. Why would I be good at shipping? I'm just not going to be, I just stay out of the things you're bad at and you don't like doing. You're probably not going to be able to make any money at it.
And then that helps the relationship too. So that's good.
Right, she's the same way. She's like, she's not going to sign up for things that, like, somebody has to do the taxes. It's not going to be Miss Kate.
No. And well, you guys know, I'm never going to do anything in the kitchen.
Yeah, she'll cook.
I literally asked him the other day if he wanted me to heat something up, and he just did that. And I was like, it's in a microwave.
I was like, absolutely not.
Microwave something on your behalf. Also, does the microwave already heat on it, or is there a button for that? And he was like, don't touch anything. And I was like, I'm trying to do something for you. And he was like, stop. In the kitchen. Why are you doing this? I was like, I thought I was being loving. He's like, never go in there again. That's loving. And so, we just very much stay in our lanes with our love languages and never exit. And that is,
I am so glad that we live by a taco shop.
Oh, we could buy many taco shops.
We do. And so
amazing.
But that's honest to God how you keep a good relationship and business, especially when you do both as a couple together, is you're just like, I'm not going to do anything I hate.
Yeah, it doesn't serve it. You're going to be bad at the things you don't like doing. Because if it's something you don't like doing, you're going to complain. Nobody wants that. And you're probably going to cut corners. And you're not going to do it to a high degree because you're like, I don't want to do this anyway. So I'm going to do the minimum. So you're never going to be good at something you don't like doing. And so just don't do those things.
And the other thing we do though, is try to set each other up for success. And so that's another, and we'll even say that. And so like, even simple things, if I go get my nails done, these are my claws, or like get my hair done, I'll tell him, and I'm like, I'm going to get my hair done. When I come back, you need to say, ooh la la. And so then when I get back, he's like, did you get your hair done? It looks so good. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I know, right? It looks so good. And I actually learned from my dad. And my dad was just like, hey, I always know when you get your nails done. Would you just tell me so that I never like miss it? And I was like, you're smart. I will.
That is smart.
I will tell you. And so this one, like, I could like accidentally lose an eye and it would take him months. So like, but if I set him up for success and I'm like, today my nails will change colors and it will mean a lot to me if you notice. So the next time you see me, notice. Then he'll be like, I can do that. And so we try to set each other up for success in those kind of ways too.
I'm going to set you up for success and I'm going to make a nail appointment. So that's great. Thank you. I love that takeaway.
It's a win. It's an easy win for everybody too, because then Mike's like, nailed it. And then Caroline's like, no, I did so good. Everybody wins. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, I want to tone this back a little bit and ask you some more real questions, though I'm learning so much from you guys right now, and it's all really good stuff. You two mentioned earlier about books, and like you kind of bonded over that. And Alex and I, we've talked a lot about books. In fact, Miss Kate and I, we've talked a lot about books too. I love that. But I want to know, like, what books or mentors or experiences do you think have been the most transformational in getting to where you are today?
I don't know. Cheers.
There's a whole shelf of them.
Pick 3.
Like most impactful, or you've gone back to, or you reference,
Pick 3. We wouldn't be together if I hadn't read Anna Karenina.
right?
Full strength.
Tolstoy.
Yep.
Greatest book on relationships, I think. Or like if you're single and you're trying to get a long-term relationship and you're mucking it up, Anna Karenina is probably the most impactful book for me. I modeled my entire financial and philosophical life around a guy named Nassim Taleb. He wrote 5 books.
Yep.
You got to read all of them. They're all important. What else? I haven't stopped talking about David Foster Wallace since I read him 5 years ago. She's not happy about that one.
What is that?
There's no reason to read anything that man wrote.
He wrote a book called Infinite Jest.
It was terrible. It was so bad he committed suicide after writing it.
Oh,
He did commit suicide after writing it. It's like one of my favorite books. I've
So
never heard of that one.
That's because God loves you. And
We're gonna read it in book club in a few months. You can join.
Okay.
you should do
What
the
do
who does that before and after.
What about
Yeah,
you?
terrible. 3 books are 3. Mine is 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle by Oliver Turton, because I read extensively, and that book, I had never read anything like it, and I like to experience anything I've never experienced before. And I find that to be very difficult when I've read so much. And so definitely that book. And then I read Essentialism last year, which I know didn't really hit for you, but it really hit for me because some books are just right time, right place.
Sure.
And so that one for me was right time, right place. I don't think it necessarily says anything profound because you can guess what it's about by the title. But yeah, no, for me, it was right time, right place. And then trying to think of like a classic or something that,
Or even a person.
I do love Little Prince. I do love Little Prince, but no, more of a person as a conglomerate is kind of an anti-hero or what is it? Say the word.
Anti-hero?
No, like an anti-role model.
Yeah.
Anti-model is when I was a fabric rep and I went to all those stores and they'd be like, hey, what should I be doing in business? And I would try to be like, hey, I would try this. And then they wouldn't do it. And I was like, if I had a shop, I would do that. And I think it would work. And so now I take all those ideas I tried to give away and see if they work. And so far,
They're
they do.
working.
And so
That's awesome.
so that's actually been interesting and I wonder, and I'm sure that's true across the board, is how many ideas do we say like, hey, you should try this, but they're too much work. And so people are like, no, I'm not going to do that. What if I keep doing the same thing? Do you think that will generate more income if I just keep doing this? No. And so I think that has been definitely a big inspiration, is just like you have to listen to other people and try even if it doesn't make sense, or try even if it takes more effort than what you're currently putting in, to see if there's another outcome out there.
Yeah.
I like it.
I like that too.
Okay. Jumping back to couples and you two, what has been a rewarding or like most rewarding moment for you two together?
Leaving Maui.
Going to Austin, getting space.
We do like Austin. I will say that. We do really love it here. We are, I think we feel about Austin the way you, Caroline, feel about Maui.
Yeah, here.
We are home, and we knew we were home very quickly. And so that has been hugely rewarding as a couple also to feel home in the same place, because we had never felt that before. And because neither of us had really been to this city, definitely not lived in the city, and neither of us had lived downtown in any city. So the fact that both of us, it turns out, are downtown city people and happen to be downtown Austin people has been hugely rewarding.
Because we lived apart in a city that I didn't really like, and you lived in Canton, which you didn't really like. You were on the road. I was traveling a bunch. Then we finally, after a couple of years, we got together. We lived in Fayetteville for a while. Well, we didn't love it at all. And then we moved to Charlotte because we wanted to move to a city, but we ended up living like 25 minutes in the suburbs.
Okay.
We hated it. And then a few months later, we moved to like 6 months later, we moved to Maui.
Well, then you were there months before I was.
Yeah, and then you were wrapping up. doing all this stuff for the houses. Then you finally get there. I was already kind of get over it. And then we never like planted roots in Maui, and then we left. So it's like been 4 years of
Yeah.
People.
Yeah.
chaos, which I can take a lot more chaos than probably
Yeah.
everybody, but certainly not everybody likes it. You don't like it. And then we didn't really have a place that we both liked. We didn't have a place either of us really like. You like Maui better than me. But so coming here and being able to start a life together in a place that we both genuinely love.
We love it here.
We love it here. And like the city and where we live, like I can walk outside and see the state capitol.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I can walk there in 11 minutes. We can walk to East 6 and get, I went to Quickie Picky today for tacos.
Mm-hmm.
Like we love it here. So I was joking about Maui, but really fulfilling. I was like, moving to Austin is going to be one of the like biggest benefits to our relationship since we started.
Yeah.
2025 is our word of the year is foundations.
Is this your Miss Kate's house coming true? Dream coming true?
It's the goal. So prices here are feels like Maui prices here too.
I bet.
It's very expensive for where we want to live because we want to stay exactly where we are
In the city.
Yeah.
But that's okay. We're gonna make it happen, and we're getting married, and
Yes.
so finally, and so that'll be really good. And so yeah, it's just I don't know. It feels like everything else was kind of like
Pre-game.
the pregame
Temporary.
to kind of almost it feels like this year. It almost feels like now everything actually begins. And so
I
Yeah.
love that.
it's been really great. Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we're gonna wind it down here because I know we're getting out of time, but I do have a couple more questions I want to ask you. One is if there's one mistake that you could help others with, what would that be and why? Help others avoid. I mean,
Should we go or you go?
You go.
I think most people are absolutely excellent, world class at a very small few things in life. 2, maybe 3. And you're going to be bad at the overwhelming majority of things. And you have to do 2 things to find out what those 3, you have to really work hard at finding what those 3 things are because you are subject to all sorts of marketing. It's a bunch of people in the world telling you what you should buy, how you should live, what you should wear, where you should go, what you should do. You should do their thing. They're telling you what they think you should do. And it's easy to believe them because you're like, oh, that guy's successful or that gal is successful or that person looks the way I want to look or like all of this input about the world explicitly and implicitly telling you what it wants you to do. And it's very hard to block all of those things out and say, no, I don't want to do all of these things that you want me to do. I want to do this thing. I want to open a quilt store in the face of all of this social pressure to do something else. That is very hard. The second thing is you then have to explore. There's people who would be better at a quilt store than you, but they've never quilted.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't get exposure. Heck, when was the last time you went on Shopify and tried to sell something? You don't get exposure. Like I was 35 before I picked up a camera.
Mm-hmm.
I had never had a camera before until I was 35. So it's like that's 3.5 decades of waste because I didn't have exposure. So I think to find out what you're really good at in life, it takes a lot of work of exploration, which takes vulnerability, it takes effort. It takes enough work where you're like, dude, I might be a world-class pole vaulter, but I've never tried it. I don't know. I've never been scuba diving before. I kind of think I hate it, but I might not. I know I hate jumping out of airplanes, but I had to do it a bunch of times to figure that out. So you have to explore, and then you also have to resist a lot of social pressure. And then if you do that really, really well, which is not easy, you do both those things, you will find out the 2 or 3 things that you're supposed to do. And if you can get on that path, I think that's like the best possible, that's the best like mistake avoidant advice I have.
Mm-hmm. And my mistake avoidant, I guess, advice would be, I think with social media, with anything, with human nature, we're all like prone to comparison game. And again, I think when you are in masterminds and everything with big players, I think a lot of people fall trapped to that probably even more. But I think that I tell you this all the time, like I don't play comparison games because I'm like, you can only play that if you're gonna look at somebody's entire life. Like you can't be like, I like somebody's, let's just say, car or house or whatever, and be like, I'm envious of that. I'm like, you have to, if you're going to play that game, you have to say you would be willing to trade your whole life for their whole life. And I feel like if you look at that kind of a comparison, very quickly you realize like, yo, they might have a better house or car or whatever, but like, I'm not interested in having their whole anything.
Yeah, that's great. I love everything that you just said. I don't know why Alex is messing with the camera there, but
Tell me I talk, you know.
It's the, what happened is I got to reset it. Hang on. What happened is it did the Apple thing where if you thumbs up, it gives you like an emoji now,
yeah.
and it just locked. Riverside doesn't like that.
And now I'm a bubble.
And sadly, that was the end of Alex and Miss Kate. What happened to them while Alex was fiddling with the camera, we may never know. But if you do want to connect with them, you can connect with Alex at his website, brokeisachoice.com, or on any social media account at Alex Scott Felice. Or you can connect with Miss Kate at quiltwithmisskate.com or on Instagram at quiltwithmisskate.
Thanks for being part of the family today. If you want to see more of our journey through our personal life, businesses, and adventures, give us a follow on Instagram at Our Family Invests.
If you like this podcast, share this episode with a friend. And if you really want to support us, we would be so grateful if you would leave us a review on Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts. Your review helps us to reach a bigger audience and bring on more amazing guests. Thank you so much. We really, truly appreciate you.